Hello friends, welcome to Beacon. Today is 8th of September 2023 in the evening, and as I speak to you right now, probably the American President Joe Biden is landing in India for the upcoming G20 Leaders Summit tomorrow. And in the follow-up to that summit, he will meet the Indian Prime Minister Modi in a bilateral meet. The second big bilateral meet between the two leaders this year, the first one happening in June 2023 when the Indian Prime Minister made to the United States on a state visit. And a joint statement was released by the two countries. A lot of points in that joint statement might be revived. Maybe new commitments can be made. So we have to keep an eye on that. But let's revise what was discussed in June in this episode. Okay, so in June this year, the nature of partnership between the two countries was reiterated, that it's a comprehensive global strategic partnership. And the word global is important because it covers the Atlantic, it covers the Indo-Pacific, Africa, Global South. It even goes up to the space exploration. So it is truly global in nature. Furthermore, the two countries are democracies. India is the largest, America is the oldest democracy. They are based on shared values such as the rule of law, human freedom, and yeah, that's it. So apart from that, the Indo-Pacific has grown as a theater of cooperation between the two countries, especially at the turn of this millennium. Strategic convergence of the interests of India and the United States have happened, especially after the rise of China, the rise of the Asian tigers, Asia in general, the Global South in general. Otherwise, you knew that there was the North Atlantic Treaty Organization during the Cold War era, but now the strategic focus is on the Indo-Pacific. A lot of forums have been opened up in the Indo-Pacific between India and the United States. The Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, the India-US Commercial Dialogue, the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and in a counter to the Belt and Road Initiative of China, we have the Blue Dot Network, which just like the BRI of China, is a lending-based, public infrastructure-based development of the beneficiary countries. And the other axis, India, United States, Japan, these countries are participating in this Blue Dot Network. But one of the most iconic groupings is the Quad, the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. As the name suggests, security in the Indo-Pacific is the primary purpose. It has the Malabar exercise, but it goes well beyond that into spheres of research and development, scholarships, space cooperation, and whatnot. It's important to note, first of all, Quad is based out of 4 countries, India, US, Japan, and Australia. All these 4 countries are firstly democracies, but they are very different countries, different sizes, different problems, different history, different economy, but they come to this theater of cooperation for a common interest. And that is what is important, and unlike BRICS and some other organizations which are trying to expand, it's not inclusive in its membership, but inclusive in its agenda. So that's the buzzword nowadays. Moving on from Quad, we go into defense cooperation. Now, defense is the big game for the next few years because India for the last several decades has been a recipient of defense equipments from Russia, from the United States, from European countries. But now India is in a position to manufacture it big time. And given the transfer of technology, a lot of R&D can happen in India. So defense industrial cooperation is possible, and it is in this spirit that co-production of the engines of the Tejas aircraft in India by General Electric with full transfer of technology has been proposed in the June 2023 meet. Apart from that, an innovation bridge has been made between India and the United States in which the defense startups will be linked. Collaboration called IndusX, India-US Defense Acceleration Program, has been launched in which industry, startups, think tanks of the two countries will collaborate to accelerate R&D and development in the defense sector. And in the backdrop of Quad, we have 2+2 ministerial dialogues between the external affairs and the defense ministers of both countries. So that's also an arena of defense cooperation. Moreover, it's an interesting thing that in the borders of area, LAC, for purposes of intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, we use a lot of manned helicopters, and that is not required. Manned aircrafts, I believe, that is not required. we can use drones, which is efficient and cheap. So General Atomics, an American company, is going to provide these MQ-9 Reaper drones to India, which will be extremely beneficial. So moving on from defense, I go to space cooperation, because space is going big time nowadays. And when India signed the Artemis Accords in June, that gave a new start, because Artemis Accords is a rules-based order piloted by the United States for space cooperation, for civil exploration of outer space, peaceful use of outer space, including celestial bodies. So when India signed that, that was in the backdrop, by the way, of the Artemis mission, the lunar mission of the United States. So when India signed that, India opened the floodgates of cooperation with the United States in the Artemis mission. And Artemis mission of the United States is a phased mission. They will send orbiters, they will send landers, they will send humans to the moon. They will also make a space station in the lunar orbit called the Gateway, just like we have an International Space Station in the Earth's orbit. So pretty exciting, and India will be able to collaborate in that. And immediately, the United States gave an opportunity to some Indian astronauts for being trained for 6-7 months and then going to the International Space Station. That training will be provided by the United States. So that in itself is a big accomplishment, a big opportunity, because ever since Rakesh Sharma went in the 1980s, no human has been to space from India. And India is having its own Gaganyaan mission plan for the next year, in which the astronauts of India are being trained in the Russian space facility. But I believe this is an opportunity for India. And some critics say that for 6-7 months, if you give training to the Indian astronauts, they'll go like space tourists. They won't go like scientists, because even Rakesh Sharma took 2 to 3 years of training before actually going to space. So I still believe that it is a great opportunity for India, because it will be a big thing going to the International Space Station. So collaboration in that regard. Moreover, NASA and ISRO have collaborated on a radar called NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, NISAR, in which the radar will be able to float in the low Earth orbit around the Earth, map and image the Earth in high resolution. Because what happens, the resolution of a radar is limited, and when the radar moves, the movement of that radar can be used to increase the effective aperture if the equipment and coding is properly used. So that is a synthetic aperture radar. They've collaborated, NASA has handed it over to ISRO. It might be launched anytime soon. So it's a big thing. Moreover, India came up with a space policy early this year in which the private players are being incentivized to participate. It's a big thing. Apart from space, technology partnership is happening in telecommunications, in which the Open RAN, the Open Radio Access Network for telecom instruments, is being promoted by the two countries. And 6G, the 6th generation of telecommunication networks, is being promoted, something that might be on the table even today. For the United States, we have the NextG Alliance. For India, we have the Bharat 6G Alliance. Pharmaceutical supply chains is another thing on the table, because India is a big pharmaceutical hub, and there is a problem of illicit drug abuse in the United States. So in order to curtail those supply chains, it needs the cooperation of a pharmaceutical giant like India. Next, I come to the new age technologies. This is a big thing, from artificial intelligence to semiconductors to quantum computing. There has been collaboration on various fronts between the two countries. There is an initiative on critical and emerging technology, ICET, signed between the two countries. There is also a critical mineral supply chain or a mineral security partnership signed between the two countries, because that is going to fuel the batteries and all the equipments in the future. Moreover, India is among the few countries making a LIGO, a laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory, to sense these waves. And that's in a few countries. If India makes it, it's planning to make it in Hingoli in Maharashtra complete by 2030. So if that happens, the prediction of the exact location of a black hole in the sky will be possible. That's a big thing. Apart from that, collaboration in neutrino observation is also being done. So we have neutrino accelerators in CERN, Geneva. The biggest one is in Fermi Lab in the United States. One is being planned in Tamil Nadu in the Theni Hills, called the India-based Neutrino Observatory. But for the time being, it is the Fermi Lab, which is a big area of cooperation between the two countries, and India will be supplying equipment to that. Climate is the next on the list, in which two things will be promoted big time. One is hydrogen energy, the fuel of the future, and second are the biofuels. So biofuels, the Global Biofuels Alliance has been made by India, United States, and even by Brazil, I believe. So good cooperation is happening in that. There are a lot of partnerships which have been signed. Partnership to Advance Clean Energy PACE, the Strategic Clean Energy Partnership, Clean Energy Agenda, and Lifestyle for Environment Initiative, LIFE, something which Prime Minister Modi has been pitching for even in this G20 summit. The theme of this G20 summit is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, but it also highlights the LIFE initiative. So this is going big time. The last thing that I want to highlight is the two things. Firstly, the United States condemned the terrorist activities that happened in Mumbai, and Pathankot called for justice. Also raised concern over the deteriorating situation in Myanmar. The denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula is required, so on and so forth. The last thing are diplomatic relations. Apart from growing a number of consulates, making a lot of visa applications easy, apart from all of that, two important agreements have been deliberated upon. One is the Cultural Property Agreement, which has been signed between the two countries. So a lot of Indian artifacts, very old, centuries, millennia old, have been smuggled, stolen, and found their way to the United States. Now they are being identified. A lot of them have been returned to India. This is something that all Indians need to be proud of. So this is a big thing that happened. Another thing is the negotiations on the Social Security Totalization Agreement. So just to give you an example, if you work in Google in India, if Google sends you to California for 2 years, they'll cut some Social Security deductions from your salary, something like the Provident Fund in India, but when you come back to India, that won't be counted. So if you get a salary of say 1 lakh per month, actually in the United States it will be more than 1 lakh per month, but just for the purpose of example, 1 lakh per month, they cut 10,000 every month for the Social Security. That will go into the US Treasury and you won't get any benefit. Because I think there's a rule in the United States that if you work for 10 years, only then the Social Security deductions will count. So that's a thing of concern for a lot of Indian employees, because billions of dollars of these Indian employees are stuck in the US Treasuries, and to return all of that money back to the Indian employees, well, that's a sensitive issue. That's why some conclusion has not been reached, only negotiations are happening. But these were the different deliberations done between the two countries in June 2023. A lot of them will be revived today. New commitments will come, so we'll have to keep an eye on all of that and stay tuned. And you stay tuned to Beacon. If you found value in this video, do subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and meet you next time.